The universe, quite frankly, possesses a cold indifference to individual feelings. It is a vast, unfeeling void where silence reigns. A lesson the Galactic Confederation absorbed roughly 14 standard hours after their surgical strike on a primitive blue sphere known as Earth. Intelligence reports compiled by analysts who prioritized antenna wiggling over actual cultural comprehension had identified a military training compound in Earth's northern hemisphere. They were spectacularly wrong. But as we often see in the annals of history, arrogance is the loudest voice in the room until the roof caves in. Earth had been an irritation for 8 years. Bipedal, short-lived, and inexplicably fond of keeping predators as house pets. Humans had mocked the Grand Arbiter's ceremonial headgear, which admittedly resembled a toilet plunger, and refused galactic integration. They were the cosmic equivalent of the eccentric neighbor everyone avoids. Primitives, Ambassador Zixtel had sneered, his mandibles clicking with Invorian condescension. One demonstration of power and they will kneel. The Supreme Commander, a gelatinous mass of neural tissue in a nutrient bath, had gurgled agreement. Target the infrastructure. Minimal casualties. Maximum psychological terror. The kinetic impactor hit. Montana at 3:47 a.m. The structure collapsed. Silence followed. The Confederation waited for the begging to start. 12 hours later, the silence broke, not with pleas, but with a data surge that overwhelmed the translation matrix. Words like children and orphanage flooded the system. Grand Strategist Cavour was the first to understand, his 6 eyes widening in a display of biological horror that transcends species barriers. "We made a mistake," he whispered, the dread palpable. "It wasn't a military facility. It was an orphanage. We killed their young." The casualty count: 234 juvenile humans, 17 caretakers. The Supreme Commander tank bubbled ominously. "We have erased civilizations before," it noted through the synthesizer. "Why is this different?" It was the Tavian Atesi, feathers flattened in distress, who spoke the truth. Because humans do not compartmentalize war like we do. For us, conflict is political, a transaction of resources. For them, when you touch their young, war becomes personal. The human response arrived on every screen in the chamber. Humanity does not recognize limited warfare against those who target children. Your action is an extinction-level offense. You have 14 hours to vacate human space. After that, no quarter will be given. Total war, the Tavian whispered, stepping toward the exit. "We fight with rules. Humans stopped doing that to each other centuries ago. We just killed the most vulnerable, members of a species that protects its offspring with irrational ferocity. They won't just defeat us. They will burn the sky to ensure we can never do it again." Fear, genuine and cold, finally rippled through the command deck. "They have one world," Zixtel stammered, though his mouth parts trembled. "We have 10,000. "That's what the Haglones thought," the Tavian replied softly. "No one has heard from them in 3 millennia." Red emergency lights washed the room in blood-colored warning. The planetary defense grid, a marvel of engineering, screamed a proximity alert. Thousands of unauthorized vessels dropped out of FTL. They weren't just military ships. They were everything. Freighters, retrofitted yachts, mining barges, a unified swarm. "What are they broadcasting?" the commander demanded. "It's not a hail," the AI reported, struggling with the signal. "It's singing." Through the static came a haunting, synchronized chorus, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air. It wasn't a chant of conquest. It was a song about a flag surviving hellfire. Before the Confederation could react, the power died. When the emergency reserves flickered on, a human stood in the center of the unbreakable bunker. He wore a suit, not armor. He had silver hair and a smile that contained zero warmth. the kind of expression a wolf wears before the bite. "Good afternoon," the diplomat said pleasantly. I laughed at the arbiter's hat. "I believe we've met." The silence was absolute. "I offer a single opportunity to limit the scope of your destruction," the human continued, checking a wristwatch. "Surrender the individuals responsible, everyone from the analysts to the commanders. You have 30 minutes. And if we comply, what terms for the Confederation?" Zixtol asked. "Oh, the Confederation ceases to exist today. It is only to spare the innocent worlds. We are vindictive, Ambassador. When you hurt what we love, we don't just win, we salt the earth." He vanished as quickly as he appeared, leaving a countdown timer. 30 minutes later, the Confederation offered 12 names. The diplomat returned, looked at the list, and laughed. A hollow, dry sound. 12? Out of a bureaucracy of billions? Try again. They didn't get the chance. The human assault began, but it wasn't the brute force the aliens expected. It was artistic demolition. Hundreds of small drones broadcast civilian distress signals. The Confederation's automated defense grid, bound by protocol, paused to verify the signals. In those seconds of hesitation, human stealth fighters blinded the sensors. Through the gaps poured the swarm. But they didn't just bomb, they stole. Human special forces raided the data archives, preserving the galaxy's history before dismantling its government. "We don't target culture," the human broadcasted to the weeping ambassador. Unlike some, simultaneously, human envoys appeared over 317 member worlds, broadcasting images of the broken orphanage and the small bodies, pulled from the Montana rubble. They offered a choice: stand with the child killers and die, or declare independence. The Confederation dissolved in real time as hundreds of systems severed ties. "How?" the Supreme Commander burbled, its tank turning a stress-induced yellow. "How did you build this fleet?" "We didn't," the diplomat answered from the screen. "We just stopped fighting each other. This is what happens when humanity unites against a common enemy." Then came the final blow. The human fleet transmitted data directly to the opposing alien captains. Not viruses, but biographies. Stories of the 234 dead children, favorite toys, dreams, last drawings. Each file ended with a question. "Are you prepared to die for the monsters who did this?" The Confederation Navy mutinied, ships powered down. "We want the real list," the diplomat said, standing over the ruins of the alien command. "Everyone." Within an hour, 4,023 names were provided. The Confederation was formally dissolved. The guilty were not executed. Instead, they were sentenced to Reconstruction. They were transported to Earth, forced to rebuild the orphanage and the surrounding town under the eyes of the grieving parents. "This isn't vengeance," the former Supreme Commander whispered, laying bricks alongside his former subordinates. "No," the diplomat replied, watching the work. "Destruction was vengeance. This is justice." 10 years later, a new structure stood in Montana, surrounded by gardens tended by former alien officials. A plaque read, "Here we remember the children and the civilization that died with them." The galaxy had changed. The Montana Accord was signed by the new independent systems, enshrining a single unbreakable law regarding the protection of the young. The universe may not care about your feelings,